The topic today is revenue. Pretty simple, but pretty important. And I've never run into, well, I rarely run into an association that when asked, revenue isn't one of the top metrics being measured, or at least one level down, they're measuring the things that drive revenue, event engagement and registration, membership renewals, acquisition, and so on. So having said that, I'm going to copy and paste a handful of questions that I have into the chat. But before I do, I'd love it. Is there anyone, to show of hands, feel free to use the reaction. Anyone here that's new to membership masterminds? No, good. Everyone's, oh, Leah, you're new. Hi, Leah.
Hey
Welcome.
guys.
So, Leah, this is a group of about 1,000, maybe a little under, people in LinkedIn. And it's a LinkedIn group. But the LinkedIn group's not super active. I think this is the primary output of membership masterminds. Maybe it'll turn into something else down the road. I'm with Propio along with my colleagues Robson and Brittany, and we're the originators of this group, and that's all there is to it. You may hear some talk about Prop Fuel. A lot of our clients, because of our relationship, a lot of our clients are here, but this is not a Prop Fuel event, but you may hear some talk about it. You don't need to be a client, although some people are. All right.
Well,
So that's
thank
Hey,
that's it in a
Leah.
nutshell.
Hey Brittany, I'm well aware of PropFuel and I'm actually a fan, so it's good for me to be on this call.
Good.
And Leah
All
is
right.
vice chair with me on the Marketing Professionals Advisory Council.
Oh,
Indeed.
excellent.
Yay.
Did
And
you
I do
guys?
apologize. It's I'm doing lunch the same time as I'm doing this. I never get off camera, but so
I,
but
I think it's a great place to have lunch, actually. I tend to be doing a lot of the talking, so I tend not to bring my sandwich down here.
thanks
All
guys.
right. So what I would love, and I'll put these questions in here again, and thank you, Brittany, for working with our favorite AI tool to come up with some of these questions. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus there, but hey,
That's
kudos
okay.
for using your favorite AI tool to come up with these excellent questions. Um, Before we get into this, um, I think this is the easiest and best icebreaker. Can you put your name, no, you don't need to put your name because your name's already there. Put your organization and your role. I'm assuming you're all somewhat related to membership. So organization and role in the chat, just so we know who's here and where you're from. When I say we, I mean everyone here, not us. We're not going to do anything with this here. All right. Having said that, also, do any of you have, before we get into any of these structured questions, do any of you have a revenue question you want to ask your peers, a challenge with revenue, something related to revenue you want to discuss today before we get into these questions? I know it's a super broad topic.
I don't have any questions, Dave, but it is sort of here in your lineup of question number 2, how you're identifying and qualifying high value prospects and leads. So that was,
Let's start there
my
then.
question there.
That's good. Let's start with that one. By the way, my favorite question here, and so I'm going to save this one for last. If you had $5,000 to invest in revenue growth this quarter, where would you put it? Super curious. I love questions like that. All right. How are you identifying and qualifying high value prospects, whether it's for membership events or sponsorships? How do you know who's ready to buy and what signals to look for? Is there any organization here that receives a list from your state or from some other organization of prospects? Like CPA societies, for example, many CPA societies are closely working with the state in one way or another, who give it, I don't know if it's mandatory, but they give the CPA society the list of CPAs. Nobody. Yeah, it seems like a gift. I mean, that's gold.
Yeah, most of our leads that we get come from our other trade shows that we participate in. So if they're stopping by our booth and we're, attending another trade show, we don't get a list from anywhere else just because of the nature of our society.
And you're with ASNT, that's a non-destructive testing
Yep.
society. Yep. Where do you get your lists? Where do you get your prospects from? Where do they come from?
Dave, I can jump in a little bit on some things that it, and as Patricia was saying, it's always a mixed bag, right? Because the hard part is finding the right person to talk to. Identifying the companies oftentimes can be the easier part. But you can go to competitors' shows and see who their sponsors are. You can go to competitive magazines and find who their advertisers are. You can go to competitive associations and see who their industry partners are. Those are always good places to get ideas. You can actually use now, if you want to, and you don't want to, or have the money or anything else to go to a lot of shows and meet a lot of people, you can plug into AI who you are or who your competitors are and say, hey, who's the primary sponsors for this organization? And ChatGPT and others will just spit it right out at you. Again, the hard part is finding the person to talk to, but it'll just give you a list of who the top sponsors are, who the top supporters are, all those kind of things. And so it helps you create a list without actually doing much lift on your end. But I don't want to say this too many times, but it's finding the right person. You know, just having the name of the organization is awesome, but you really need to get a person to talk to, and that's where it becomes harder.
So you're talking about sponsors, which is a huge revenue generator for events, of course. And I want to make sure that's exactly what you're talking about. You're not necessarily talking about adding members to the association. You're talking about sponsorships, right, Scott?
Correct. Sponsors, advertisers, exhibitors, industry partners, more on that side of the revenue chain, more on the non-dues revenue side than on the membership revenue side.
And Bianca, 1 second, we'll get to you in just 1 second. Scott, so and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe things have evolved, but you run a calling service for associations. So Scott Ozer Associates, you guys do phone call follow-ups for, membership, events, registration, and so on. Is that correct?
We do that, and we also do ads, exhibits, industry partnership sales.
Okay.
So that's a little bit more than just the phone. That would be a little bit more back and forth. So it would be email and phone follow-up traditionally to bring in to find the prospects, to do the outreach, to then try and close as many deals as we can when the association just doesn't have the staff to do it.
Okay. Bianca, go ahead.
Yeah, this is actually a really interesting question for our association to answer, because we've considered buying lists and have brought in some outside consultants at one point, and actually were advised not to buy lists. We're a small education nonprofit association. And so yeah, I just am interested to hear other people's thoughts. And a lot of our prospecting is coming from word of mouth of folks hearing about us. And so that obviously takes kind of an administrative toll, right, on us as a small team trying to find people and follow up with people. And so we don't really have an automated process for prospecting necessarily. That's
Leah,
yeah.
you purchase lists. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is a more like a subscription really list that we purchase every year within the industry. So that is the one that has all the targeted companies. So we use it throughout the year. It costs about 9K to purchase, but it's worth, well worth it. And we do target marketing, whether it's for events, for membership, and this is really where we expand our our market. But also, we are very much data driven, and everything we do has to do with what is the market share, how many of, what is the percentage of market share that we have within specific segment. So we do quite well with marketing that way. But we also use a vendor, an outside or third party to make calls to some of the prospects. And so we have a pretty robust program, but it can always get better, right? Especially as we're now going into the AI world, we're trying to see what we can do AI-wise to make things more automated, the things we need, and then be more personable with members and do a personal touch with them where needed.
And you're with National Business Aviation Association, so it's trade?
It's a trade association, yes. We have
Yeah.
individual membership, but it's a trade association, yeah.
Yeah. Jonathan.
Hey, I just wanted to comment on purchasing lists. I don't advise it because they're not accurate and they're scams. So just be very, very, very careful when you purchase. Make sure you know who you're buying from. If you don't know them, don't buy it. Oftentimes you can ask for a sample of what they're going to give you, and they'll send you a sample, and it looks really, really good, right? And it looks like it ties into your industry really well. And then what you get is basically spam, junk. It's not. So you got to be really, really, really careful. I know so many clients who purchase lists, and I would say 9 out of 10 of them are fraudulent spam. And so I think most of us get emails, I'm sure. I'm like, hey, buy my list, buy my list, buy my list from this event, that event. Almost all of them are spam and fraudulent. So I just wanted to share that.
So, Jonathan, I'd love to comment on that, and then Rick, off to you. I don't disagree with everything you said, but I do disagree with some of it. There are some very legitimate list companies out there. We use Zoom Info. I mean, they're pretty big. Brittany, who's the list company or data company we use now? Do you know their name?
No,
Starts with
I
a
don't know
C,
the
I
name.
think. Anyway, there's a handful of like very reputable data companies. But I know what you mean. Like I've seen those scams, especially around conferences where like, hey, you want to buy this list? And it's just like, it's absolute garbage. But even with organizations like Zoom Info and this other organization, I'll try to find the name of it, that we use to validate information about prospects. It has to be taken with a grain of salt, the information about the organization and so on. But I don't necessarily agree with you that they're all scams and that they're all bad. The ones that are typically reaching out to you over email, it looks like a spam and looks like a scam. Yeah, I agree with you completely. Those are, but I have used some decent list companies. Rick.
Yeah, Dave, I was going to agree with you. I mean, not all of them are scams, but the thing you have to really be careful about is some of that information could be dated. You got to remember that they're selling it to everybody else as well, so you're not the only one that has that information. And if you are uploading a purchase list to your, sales marketing platform or to Constant Contact or whatever you're using as your outreach, many times you have to, verify that it's not a purchase list. For example, Constant Contact asks you that question directly when you upload a list. And if you bypass it and then you go ahead and send it out to that list, a lot of companies are going to block you at the server level. So you're never going to reach the person on the list anyway, because it's going to be recognized as spam. So I would caution against using purchase lists unless it's a very reputable company like Dave mentioned.
Somebody, Bill said Apollo.io. That is not the other one we use, but yeah, that's another reputable firm next to Zoom Info. And I'm going to get the name of the other one. But yeah, totally right. Like it's just like questionable. It's like the accuracy of the data. It's just a lot of old stuff. There's a theme in here, switching subjects a little bit. Jonathan, by the way, that's not to negate your point. I think your point is very good, which is be very aware of where it's coming from. I think that's the important takeaway there. There seems to be a theme in the chat around people that come to events but are not members, people that attend webinars but are not members, people that download things in your website that are not members, and nurturing them. Obviously, if somebody comes to a conference, you have their contact information, same with a webinar. Any insights on...
I've always had this in my mind and been like,
no, you have to be legit.
So I thought that was for us. Any Any commentary on nurturing
I
people that
got
are
I got
already in your circle
something
that are not
on that.
members?
So I'm with the IEEE Computer Society.
Yeah.
And we put on 200 conferences a year. Some are very big, we're in convention center, some are like 80 people. So they
Mhm.
vary. But we would go to our big conferences, 18,000. We would do analysis, like because we co-run it with another big computing society, ACM, and like 2% of the 18,000 would be non-members. And we, set up our booth, we walk away, we let for $20 off professional student for free, we walk away with 12. And we're like, this is crazy. And this year we for one of our conferences, we promoted before the event. We mailed a postcard within the US to the non-members. We sent them 2 emails, we told them pick up your member gift at the booth. We had a member event and we did I think we did like 45 professional members and 166 free student memberships. So it really, so like we think our trick is we've only done it once, but we're trying again for a conference in November. So I think our trick was try to get beforehand because we got probably 85% of that before the conference started.
Thank you, Scott. Scott, I'm sorry, who are you with?
The IEEE Computer
You
Society.
said that. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Huge, huge, right? Like hundreds of thousands of members.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on the department and so on. Yeah. So along those lines, I've seen naturally, I come at this from a certain lens, right? Like what Scott talked about is interacting with prospects, prospective members that are not members, of course. I like to think about prospects very much like new members, and the same way I look at new members is the way I would, or the same way I would engage new members is the way I would engage prospective members, which is let's start a dialogue with them, find out what brought them to the conference. What is the thing that they're looking for? What is it that they're looking for to grow in their career? And it all starts with, of course, asking questions. So if you are using Propio or a system like that, and you can capture why, what it is that they're trying to do, what a great nurturing campaign. And what I've seen though is in those campaigns, the engagement rates are very, very low. I mean, that's to be expected. But if you have 1,000 prospects and you can land 4% of them, that's not too bad. It's a low number, a low engagement rate, but not a bad number of new members. That's sales, right?
Yeah.
On a related topic,
Mm-hmm.
How do people track? So we've done some studies and benchmarked ourselves against averages about how many engagements it takes before someone even values you enough to consider membership. And it's like at 8 to 10 engagements right now for them to even consider membership as an option or of value to them. How do people track that effectively when, I mean, I know several of us probably have multiple offerings that aren't necessarily offered through the same platform.
How many touch points do you find you need before you land? That's an interesting data question. I'd be curious if people even track that. Based on some of the blank stares and all the red microphones, I'm guessing, is it fair to say nobody really knows?
Yeah.
I've seen those numbers before too, Tracy. I mean, I've seen I think it was Tracy that made that comment. I've seen 7 times. You got to hit somebody 7 times before they take action. I mean, at PropTeal, it's very similar in the way that we have prospects. Some of you are prospects, and some of you went through our prospecting process. And a lot of it is, you know, you hit people up over email and maybe phone calls, just like you do, multiple times with slightly different messages and value propositions and white papers and so on. And, you know, some people never respond. Some people respond after the first one. And, you know, on average, it's probably somewhere around, you know, 7 touches. Steve.
Yeah, following up on what Tracy was saying, there's that sort of like looking at the big data macro side of it. It's like how many touches to sort of get your, you know, trust level up. But I think that like at the smaller level, you know, with our organizations where you're 100,000 or less members, it's more about just being in front of them when they're ready to make an action. So it's less about sort of, you know, having to hit them enough times to become sort of friendly to them. And it's more about at that point of sale, it may be a time of year related to, you know, when their employer is willing to pay for them. You know, it may just be a matter of, you know, just the urge hits them. Somebody else had talked to them about it. And you know, so just being in front of them at the right time is, and maybe it's a bit more of a gut, but that's what I sort of feel like as far as like making sure you're out there and hitting them a lot.
Thank you, Steve. I couldn't agree more. Timing, right? It's matching timing with the right messaging and so on. I mean, I don't know how many of you buy things on Instagram. Sometimes I'm not gonna, and sometimes I see that shoe ad one more time, and I'm like, yeah, I totally need another pair of shoes. All right, I did find, I'll put this in the chat. I asked somebody on my team, so we're getting some data from this company called Ample Market. It's data as well as emails and names. So, but there's a lot of data, so we know who we're talking to, what organizations they're with, and so on. But Ample Market is one called Salesfinity. I don't recall working with them. Cause IQ is one that's specific to nonprofits. Yeah, so those are 3 other organizations in addition to ZoomInfo and Apollo. All very reputable organizations. All right, what's one thing you've done recently that actually moved the revenue needle? Anybody have a good story, something that moved the needle? Nothing. Sales sucks, right? So we're talking about 2
No, we
kinds of
have
sales
one.
here.
I have one.
Who is that? Who said that?
Janet.
Janet, go ahead, Janet.
We're an individual membership organization, and we just started, I know this seems obvious, but we just started it. Our journal authors, those who are accepted to publish in our journal, any one of our, we have 17 journals to publish in them, they're offered a 50% off campaign. And it's the timing of when they're offered it, because we have gone out to journal authors all the time and said, hey, if you're a member, you get 50% off your publishing fees. That's not doing it. It's sending them the email from I don't know, the firm that manages that, third-party vendor that manages that for us, and it says something along the lines of, congratulations, your article has been accepted for publication. Did you know that if you become a member, you're going to save 50% off on your publishing fees? You have an opportunity right now to become a member. We're offering them 50% off of the membership fee itself. And they have like a 2 or 3 week period to do that. And all of a sudden we've noticed that a lot of them seem to be taking us up on that offer. So that's a nice win for us. But it's not coming right from ASM. It's coming from the platform that had said, hey, your article has been accepted.
Thank you, Janet. Steve.
For us, it was something that was simple but kind of expensive. We went into a new medium, which is video. So we took advantage of some site visits that we already had happening, and we shot some video footage at our members, like our member firms. So we were able to do 2 things, or 3 technically. We were able to develop all of this digital content and turn it into video footage where we make edits, and we could then start getting in different channels by getting on YouTube, getting having more interactive content on LinkedIn and social media. But it also allowed us to start developing a reservoir, our own digital asset library. So we have our own members, we have our own assets that we own. So when the dark times come around the corner and we don't have the money to spend, we'll have all those assets on hand, and then we can make our own edits in-house. And we know that this worked because we saw the needle move. We saw the engagement rates, and we saw the counts and the revenue go up.
What tools or service did you use for that?
We went out and shot it ourselves. So we partnered with a videographer, and we partnered with our chapters to select different firms that would have a wide array, diverse member base, visually diverse, because we're architects. So you wanted to be in some small markets, some big markets, a lot of different visuals as far as like the buildings themselves was important as well. Yeah, we just partnered with a videographer, went out, used our own members, and had the edits cut that way. So we weren't using, kind of like a third party, like a Gather Voices or anything like that.
That's what I was thinking about, Gather Voices. There's another video insight, video select.
request. We're
Thank you, video
using it,
request.
and it's very good and
Yeah.
less expensive than Gather. Sorry.
Yeah. And there's similar stuff, more member generated content than, Steve, I think what you were referring to, which is more high produced video production. Yeah. Liz, what do you have for us?
This has more to do with increasing sponsorship revenue. So we have 4 communities here at Selected, and typically we would have one sponsor for each community on an annual basis. And I found that was really limiting us content wise, and what we could do to our responsibilities to the sponsor. So what I piloted this year was breaking that sponsorship up into a multi-sponsorship approach. So having that allowed us to offer more diverse offerings to our members, and it's going to sound like small potatoes because we're a small org, but really increased. So far, our typical $6,000 sponsorship, I'm up to like $9,000 in income from breaking it up. So I know that might not sound like a lot, but it's something. So we're happy with that outcome.
Excellent. Thanks, Liz. Virginia, what do you have?
One, I'll share a revenue growth for us, but then I was wondering, Steve, oh, you already responded in my chat, so thanks. All right. So for us, we have an LMS that is separate from, of course, our AMS. Nothing can ever work together. So when we're off selling education, training, and certification, it has nothing to do with membership. And I couldn't take it anymore. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Why are we not cross-selling? Why can you not buy a certification course and a membership? So every membership person on this call is going to cringe, because I'm like, a membership is a product. We are selling it. I know there's a different kind of application. It's an agreement with the association to be a member. I'm like, I can't, we have to do it. So we have a bundled product where you purchase your certification, and you also purchase our most introductory level of membership that takes the least amount of verification from staff or individual membership organization. We have to verify certain things. So we decided we're just going to get you in at the lowest level if you're willing to buy it as a bundle. And then we do an annual audit that makes sure that you're really where you're supposed to be. So like if you're a vice president, you really should be at a higher level, and we will come for you then, but we're getting you into the pipeline earlier. So that is something that we did, and it's netting us about 100 new members every month. So it has been substantial.
That's great.
It is an incredibly manual process that we're doing.
Rick, what do you got?
Yeah, if I could do a poll here, I would love to do that, but however we can do it, I have a question for the group, which is our national association sends out emails about programs that are sponsored by, vendors primarily. And when you get the email from them, the first line will be whatever the name of the program is. And then if you're using Outlook, you can see a secondary, title or something. And the secondary line is always sponsored by Cision or sponsored by so-and-so. Personally, that turns me off because I think it's going to be like just a vendor sales pitch for 40 minutes. I'm just wondering if anybody else uses that, if that would turn anybody else off. I'm just curious what people in this room think, because to me, I don't like it. Yeah. Nobody has any thoughts?
We haven't had a bad experience with it, but I think it's because we already have a history and a reputation for what sponsorship means. And so we haven't had a challenge with it from that perspective. But I agree, starting out, it can definitely be a challenge. And maybe if you first get the offering up without the sponsorship, have them do it, do it a couple of times so you get a little bit of a following, and then allow that secondary line of sponsorship on it, so that people already have familiarity with it, what it is. And then as long as you have gotten their trust, and then they view it with a sponsor and they realize that it's not just a bunch of sponsored content, or all about who the sponsor is, then maybe they'll continue in that way.
Yeah, there's a myriad of sponsors that they use. And then if you were to open that email and click the link, the first thing you see, is the promo, and it's the title of the event, and in big letters, sponsored by so-and-so. And to me, it's just like when you go to a conference and it's a sponsored event, you're probably going to get a sales pitch. That's how I feel with these.
So, Rick, I'll share something with you from the perspective of a vendor who sponsors events.
Yeah.
I've found there's two types of association professionals that I've interacted with. Some are very at guard, and I don't know what happened in the past, who they've interacted with to create this fear or anxiety or frustration with vendor salespeople. I know there's some very aggressive and sneaky, and I don't know. There's the classic used cars salesman mentality. Not to bash used car salesmen. I mean, there's some good used car salesmen too, but there's some people that are at guard, and all the way up to after you've even signed a contract and we're working. Some of our clients are really arm's length, and like, yeah, we signed the contract, we paid, we're good. Most of our clients look at us like a real partner in the mix. And I think when we sponsor FSAE Florida or ASAE for that matter, or anyway, and any of the organizations that we work with, we understand that our job, while yes, we want to spread the word about the things we're doing, we also know that we can bring some really interesting, important information to the table. And so now it's a relationship, and it's important that we don't abuse our relationship with them. And so I think the guidelines have to be set. Now, having said that, I know when I do webinars, our webinars tend to lean a little more towards the sales side, but I hope there's always some good stuff to learn from them too. And then when we do events for like ASAE, I lean a little too far away from the sales side. So people are like, I'm sorry, what does PropFuel have to do with all this? I've actually had that question. So I've had to go a little more towards, okay, let me tell you who I am and what PropFuel does so that you understand the position I'm taking. So anyway, I'm just saying it's a spectrum and it's a relationship. And I strongly encourage everyone to look at vendors like PropFuel and Gather Voices and any of the other vendors out there like partners, because generally speaking, we believe in what we do. We really, really want to help you. We're not trying to get something thing from you. Well, yeah, we are a signature, that's for sure. but we really do want to help, and we believe in what it is we're doing. Bill, all yours.
That's too funny, Dave. And actually, I agree with you on the partner sentiment, which was really where I was going to chime in. Just that, you know, to the question that was posed of the pre-header line, I understand if somebody sees sponsored by, then they might be turned off by that content. Using that to really further differentiate why this content matters is a great way to, deliver value for your sponsors. But the most important thing that I've found, at least in the current role that I'm in here with Weedy and Health IT, is emphasizing to our sponsors that they are partners and that we want them to deliver educational value to our attendees at our events and not just be there to wave the flag. Sure, you can mention a product, but ultimately, if you only talk about your product or what you can do and how great you are, most people are immediately turned off and they shut down and stop listening. And it's establishing that as a known sentiment, not only with your sponsors, but also your attendees. So when the attendees show up to the event and they see a sponsored session, they're not immediately turned off because, hey, I saw One Up Health at this other event and they really talked about something that meant something to me. It clarified a point, raised my knowledge on the subject, whatever it may be. But having that as your precedent, one, your attendees are happier, you might see more signups, and two, it makes it easier to get a sponsor on board with what you're trying to accomplish with your event, establishing that greater partnership. So the next time you reach out to them as well, you don't have to explain any of those things. They already know, they're already doing it, and it just delivers more value for everybody all around.
I agree with you, Bill. I think my issue is that if first of all, you're trying to get me to open the email. So if I see the title and then the secondary, that pre-header is also something that would attract my attention, that would benefit me as a member or an organization leader, then that would encourage me to open it. But seeing a sponsored by so-and-so line doesn't motivate me to open that email. So if I were to find that I like the topic, then I'll open the email. And then if it says sponsored by so-and-so, fine. I have no problem with that. I just think we might be turning people away by putting that in that pre-header.
Quite possibly, yes. I mean, it's visibility for the sponsor, but ultimately, to your point, is it detracting from what they're trying to share with the audience that, whose inboxes this message is landing in?
Right.
When you mentioned that, it reminded me of it was an IBM piece that I sold at a previous association, a marketing piece that they dropped into the conference bags. And, one guy was like, whenever I get these conference bags, I immediately take the stuff out, I give it a quick glance. And then if, the title of it interests me, I may actually read it. But the one in question was just so very sponsorship pitchy that it immediately went into the trash, and he actually went over to their booth and told them so. And not to say they were happy about it, but they did appreciate the feedback. And after that, they definitely brought more education. So in that experience, it just taught me that it's my responsibility as the guy selling the sponsorships to also kind of step in sometimes and say, hey guys, this is really doing you a disservice because it's coming across too salesy.
Exactly.
It's tough. I'm with you on that though.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Something I've seen that I haven't heard us talk about here is, I do a podcast with Tom Morrison, Metal Treating Institute, and we've interviewed some organizations that have really creative revenue sources. NCARB, National Council for Architectural Real Estate, Architectural something boards. They own a software company. They literally bought or created, I'm not sure which one, a software company internally. That's a for-profit entity. I've seen other organizations invest in other businesses to see them grow. And they own a part of those businesses like any investor. Airport executives. Oh my goodness, the acronym is escaping me. Airport Executives is in a partnership with Uber and Lyft as it relates to airports to help manage the activity of Uber and Lyft at every airport across the country. In fact, they're working with train stations now to help implement security programs like airports are using. So thank you, AAAE. Anybody have sources of revenue that stem from something kind of related but ancillary to the association? Businesses for profit?
I could just chime in. And you're talking about affinity program partnership or strategic
No, not
partnerships?
necessarily. In the cases I described, those were not affinity programs. Those were very specifically investments or creating for-profit entities within their umbrella.
Got it. Our successful non-membership related revenue is really more of a workers' comp program. That one is the most fruitful of any strategic partnership or any other program that we have thus far.
Workers' comp, that's you
The
said.
workers' comp, yeah. Because there are a lot of pilots, and workers' comp is quite important for a lot of our member organizations. And so that brings in quite a lot of money.
Yeah,
For
a
the
lot of insurance programs. I'd imagine there's other organizations here working with insurance. Nobody? Interesting. Yeah, I've seen that in a lot of places. Thanks for mentioning that, Leah. Insurance companies are really interested in getting in front of your members, and it can be a really nice member benefit. I know ASAE offers some insurance to association and
it's over 1 million. I mean, it's a good source of revenue in case you're looking into it. Just look at your audience and see if this is something that you can offer your members, if it makes sense. But yeah, it's a good partnership.
Steve, I need you to explain that a little bit more. We recently sold a large product line and now only get a small revenue stream.
Yeah, it was a product line that created contracts. So a contract document department, which was one of our top 3 revenue generators. So around 2020 or so, we actually sold that off to a third party for profit so that they could scale it up a bit more. So all of that revenue is no longer coming in to us. But of course, you sell it off and you get an initial capital hit, and then there's just a slight revenue stream that comes in afterwards.
That's interesting. All right. I'd like to, if we could, this is just kind of a fun question. If you had $5,000, what's the exact question? If you had $5K to invest in revenue growth this quarter, where would you put it? New tool, paid campaign. We didn't talk much about digital advertising promotion. My son owns a Hawaiian flannel shirt company. Really cool flannels. Shameless plug, thekonabrand.com. Super awesome, like Hawaiian but long sleeve flannel shirts. And he's become a master at like promoting stuff on Instagram, Facebook, and so on. Like it's a real art. I know nothing about it. Are any of you guys putting white papers, promotions to events, buying ad space, buying keywords in Google?
Yeah, we're doing digital ads, Google ads and LinkedIn ads, boosted campaigns, things like that.
What do you, it doesn't Feather does the retargeting, right?
Yeah, that name sounds familiar, and I think we've used them in the past. It's not who we're using right now.
Okay.
Yes, Feather does retargeting.
All right, if you had $5,000, what would you do with it? This quarter dries up, evaporates it at the end of the quarter. Nah, let's say in 3 months from now it evaporates. What are you going to do with it? Google ads, LinkedIn ads. Thanks, Janet. Yeah, that goes pretty quickly with LinkedIn ads.
I'd put ours in training program development because we notice a correlation between product and offering sales with having a training program associated with it.
So training program draws in non-members and then
Yeah.
you nurture them.
Yeah. It shows more value to them overall if we have a suite of offerings around a training program. And then that overall communicates the value that we offer to them in the grand scheme of things. And then they end up becoming members and becoming stronger participants.
I like Steve, your comment, just pump it into digital spend.
Mm-hmm.
You make it sound so easy, like just pump it in, like put it in the machine. I think the hard part is finding the person that knows where the pump goes. I don't know that. The only person I know that knows that is my son selling shirts. Hey, Leah, what's Old Republic Insurance Group? Is that just an insurance infinity program?
Rick was asking in the chat what company I think we work with, and
okay.
that is the name of the insurance company, and their aerospace kind of division is what we work with.
Okay.
Yeah, and I worked for an affinity insurance company that sold insurance through the bar associations, medical associations, alumni associations. So my job was communicating about not necessarily the features or even the benefits of the insurance, but topical things like for law associations, like the risks of cyber breaches and things like that. So more of an education kind of thing. And then if they understood all of those things, they would look at it and say, yes, we do need these insurances. And then of course those associations made money off of the insurance policies.
Anyone else? $5,000? We got digital marketing. There's a lot of ways to nurture those one-time transactions. For me, the greatest risk is you annoy people. And what do you have to lose there? All right. That's all I got for you today. I'm going to let you go a little bit early. Are there any topics, Brittany? Do we have a topic or Robson, do we have a topic for next month?
No, we usually ask the group, what do people want to talk about?
Is there something you're working on, something you're struggling with that you want some help with from your peers?
And think too about like the timing of the year too. So we're going to be meeting in September. I know a lot of people start talking about budgets in September, October-ish, renewals if you're on a calendar year basis. Leah, did you have a thought? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rick.
I don't know if we covered this in a prior meeting, but getting, volunteers from the membership to serve on committees and serve on the board and get active in, the activities. I think is very important, and we struggle with that. We try all kind of campaigns, and we get dribs and drabs of volunteers, and some people say yes, and then you reach out to them, and then it falls into a black hole. So you wonder why they even contacted you in the first place.
Yeah, we're not paying them enough, are we?
Exactly.
It's
Janet
funny, we
says-
found out that making our volunteers do an application process, actually making it slightly harder to get a position, actually did a better job of getting us volunteers that brought some skill into the game.
Yeah. I always found that there was the personal outreach. Yeah, I found that the personal outreach was also good. Just actually calling somebody and just saying, "Hey, I know you are involved in the association. Would love you to plug in." And a lot of those people will say yes.
Yeah, but the problem is you tend to get the same people, right?
Yeah,
Somebody's really
true.
good at this, and so somebody else will tag them to do that, and so it tends to be kind of the same people at the top, jumping between committee and volunteer roles, and so going out with open calls with actual applications that aren't super easy to fill out got us some new blood.
Yeah. And I would also add to that, maybe next time for the next conversation, member experience and retention efforts. Like, how does that kind of correlate with each other? We all think our system is, maybe it's bad, or we're making it difficult for them to join or renew, or maybe because of database issues and other things. But what can we do to create a better member experience? Keep in mind that right now everybody's struggling because of the Amazon experience. You know, I want it now. And I can personally say I purchased something on Etsy recently and I thought, oh gosh, I wish I did it through Amazon because I'm going to get it right away. The process is much more. And I can imagine our members are feeling the same when they're going through several steps and they said, you know what, forget it. I don't have time for this. So what can we do? I think that really has something to do with the retention numbers. When you're not happy with the retention numbers, but you have to look at, was the member experience good? What are you doing about it? And all of those things. So I'm very excited that we're going to do some sort of a bigger survey, I think about 5-6 months from now. And I'm hoping to pick so many things from that to create a strategy moving forward.
Thank you, Leah. We have member engagement, scoring, digital strategy, value versus experience.
And then
All right.
volunteer recruitment too from Rick.
Thank you. Yep. Well, Brittany is going to be running the one in September. What's the date? September 22nd?
The 23rd.
23rd. I'm going to be in Berlin, Germany. So I'm out for that one. So I'll miss you guys, but you're in good hands with Brittany. I'm sure she'll pick a good topic.
Yeah.
All right. You guys have a great day. Thanks for joining today. Really appreciate everybody participating.
Bye, guys.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Bye-bye.